Okay, back at the compressor. Here's what I got pretty much. I've separated the tube that comes out of the compressor and goes into the tank. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this line over here to a B&M transmission cooler that I purchased. It has a 1/2 inch in and 1/2 inch out. I'm going to make a bracket and hang it either like this or like that. I haven't got that far yet. After I hang it, the inlet line from the compressor, okay, it's going to go into one side of the cooler, and then the line coming out of the cooler is going to go into one side of this water separator here. It's going to come out the other side of the water separator and go right back into the tube over here, which goes down into the tank. The whole point of this is to cool off the air and get condensation out of it before it goes into the tank. That way I can avoid having any kind of excessive corrosion or water buildup inside the tank. All right, quick little update. I've made a bracket for the cooler that I'm going to be hanging here. Used some angle iron and the welder. I'm utilizing factory holes right here and there. If I move it away, so no new drilled holes or anything. It sits pretty good. I'm going to run some of that back strap right there across the center. That's some pretty thick back strap, and I'm going to create mounting options for both the fan and the cooler at the same time with their own mounts. So I'm going to get back at it and let's see how this turns out. The bracket is starting to come together. I've got the back side. I've got a fan mounted to it. I ran some self-tappers through the mounts that I made, which was a back strap. I flattened out the angle iron back strap stuff. Anyway, I drilled holes, pilot holes, and I ran self-tappers through it, traced out the hole, and then I cut it out so it wouldn't restrict any airflow. So we'll get the most optimum airflow out of this thing, and it sits pretty good right now. I'm getting ready to put the transmission cooler on the front of it here. So let's move on. All right, here we are with the finished product now for the mount for the fan and the transmission cooler to cool the air. Doesn't look too bad. It's functional, very rigid. If I pull this, it pulls the whole tank. It's pretty solid mounted. You can see like I said, I utilized the existing holes that were already in the top of this plate on top of the tank. So here we are. The paint, I happen to have some tan paint already. You can see it's a shade off, but doesn't look too bad from a distance. You know, it's better than black or raw steel or whatever. Like I said, I had some of that from a previous project. So moving on, gonna get this water separator mounted now. I now have the water separator mounted. Looks like that's probably the only location due to the orientation of the in and out where I can place this thing at. The in is going to be on this side and the out's on this side. And I could reverse it, but if I reversed it, I could no longer use this little window here to see how full it is. Even though it is an auto drain setup, I'd still like to be able to see what's back there. So pretty much this line here, which is loosely, you know, hanging in there, I'm going to have to plumb some new copper. It's going to come down here, and it will go down into the top right here, at the top of this inlet. It's going to go through the radiator. It's going to come out the bottom. It will then go around and up and into this side of the water separator, and it'll come out of this side of the water separator. It's going to go up and come back around to this copper pipe right here going down to the tank. So now I need to figure out what kind of fittings I'm going to go with to make this work from this pipe here to adapt to this 1/2 inch fitting right here. But it's got to be some sort of swivel end or a compression fitting of some sort. I'm not sure what the pressure rating is on compression fittings. I guess it's time to do a little bit of research and see what we get. So after multiple trips to the hardware store, I ended up finding out that I needed a 5/8 union here and all these 1/2 inch ports and I've also needed, it's 5/8 on one side to a 1/2 inch on the other side, and I'm using a 5/8 flare nut or flange nut on the other side here, and I've bought a flare tool, and I'm going to be flaring the end of the copper tube, and this nut will be slid over the end of it, and I'm going to tighten it by fastening the tube onto the fittings there. I have the new Max Dry 5-stage air filtration system installed on the wall. This thing is big. If you see, like the size of my hand here versus this filter, this thing is big. This is tall or taller than a 2-liter bottle. It went on fairly easy. I got it all leveled up there, both on the wall and on the bracket. So that's good to go. So if you weren't aware, there you go. Stage 1 is a filter. Removes water and solids. Stage 2 is an oil removing filter. And stage 3 is desiccant. Removes moisture. And stage 4 and 5, filter and precise regulator. So you see we got the regulator there, filter. It's got the little balls with the clear glass window, so you'll see when the air's flowing, the ball will be going up. Same thing there and there. As you can see, the color of the desiccant changes. It'll be blue when it's normal, and it's pink when it's saturated. And this particular desiccant can be baked. So whenever this one gets full, used up, just take it out, throw it in the oven, 350 degrees for, I think it's 45 minutes. And then you can take it out of the oven and throw it right back in the filter, reuse it. So anyway, I thought that was pretty good. I like the idea to be able to reuse it instead of having to constantly buy desiccant. Alright, I got some of these pipes soldered up. Getting close. Got some flares made. Got all the elbows and everything on here. We're looking pretty good. These are all done. All I have left is that one sticking up right there. Run that to this, and we'll be good. I'll give you all a chance to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to set the phone down and record this next step. That way you can see what all I've been doing. transmission cooler, which is the new Aftercooler here. Again, there's an electric fan mounted on the back side of that. Give you a little peek back there. Going back behind it, and there it is. And then it comes out of the top here of the cooler, goes around into the water separator, and then it goes back out, up all the way down there to the right and down into the tank. Now it comes back out of the tank down there, and we have a slope so that any water between the very top of the first run in the tank will run back down into the tank, and I can drain that from the bottom. Other than that, we have the copper pipe aftercooler setup here. Ball valves at the bottom to drain any water. And then we have our 5-stage filtration system. And now I have my air compressor hose. It's retractable from Lincoln, mounted on the wall here. Pretty cool. So I'm waiting on a whip hose to arrive to connect from that fitting there down to there. And when it arrives, I'll put that in line, and then we'll be ready to rock. Next thing I'll be doing is going to be adding some lights in the ceiling. My ceiling is not quite illuminated enough. It is bright in here, but it's not for paint jobs bright. So I need to get some lights, which I have in the floor down over there behind the Harley. You see them down there. I've got 8 4-foot LED lights. I'm going to mount them in here so that it can brighten it up a little bit, so I don't have any issues while painting. I went ahead and got my my fan wired up here. It's got wires running up there in the back. Goes through and around. I got my power inverter set up here on the compressor, and it's wired to it with a 12-volt cigarette lighter plug. There it is. Got a cigarette lighter plug pigtail running out of that thing, so I can disconnect it if I need to. And the wire just hangs down there. I plug it in the wall right there whenever I want to use it. And got some lights installed. So, yeah. 8 to be exact. 8 LED light fixtures. Yep. It is super bright in here now. It is so bright. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. This is DIY Dozier, and if you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. If you're not, thanks for following. Stay tuned. We're going to continue this compressor setup, and we're going to be building a paint booth next.